Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great privilege for Crystal and myself to be with you this evening. And it's a privilege to be again here in the Palestine Center. I think my first connection with the center, Youssef, was in 1991, 10 days after the Madrid conference, during the days of Hisham Sharabi and Mohammed Hallaj. I remember it was a moment of excitement and optimism. And I remember having started my improvised speech by saying, history is in the making. Palestine will resurrect, and as you know, we in Jerusalem, we in Palestine, we have had some previous experience in resurrection. And I remember having ended my speech responding to then Prime Minister Shamir, whom I had seen on TV doing his speech in Madrid 10 days earlier, where he spoke with the facial expression of a predator of Israel's hunger for peace. And I ended then my speech in the Watergate Hotel across the street by saying, we can satisfy Israel's hunger for peace if Mr. Shamir abandons his appetite for territory. Youssef, I'm so happy to see you again. When I met you the first time, I knew you were a promising individual. You are here at the head of an institution that is a necessity in Washington. It's a breath of fresh air. It's here that we can freely discuss our analysis, our prevision, our predictions, our preferences in an open spirit and in a wonderful forum. So I wish you success, my friend. To my friends in the Washington Report, Ambassador Kilker, Delinda, her colleagues, and the interns, I would like to pay tribute to their devotion and dedication for so long to help the cause of Palestine. I know it has been an uphill battle, but I believe that they have reached now the moment where it's becoming rewarding because the expression, I'm sorry. I believe that we have reached a moment where it's becoming rewarding because the levels of sympathy and the expressions of sympathy we're getting from across the world is, Ambassador Kilger, thanks to effort like yours and your team around you here in Washington, but all over the world in many capitals. So if today our cry for freedom out of captivity and bondage is finally being heard, it's thanks to you, Ambassador Kilger, and to your colleagues, Janet, Delinda, and all the others. To Yaoub, my young Palestinian friend that I discovered yesterday. You are the representative of the new generation. You are the keeper of the flame, Yaoub. And if I have one piece of advice for you is the following. Don't allow my generation to colonize your generation. Don't allow my generation to colonize your future. And at the same time, if I have one other piece of advice, is to tell you, I personally, I've never belonged to the optimistic school of thought that says that the vanquished, the oppressed will inevitably be victorious. I don't believe in predestination. I don't believe in predetermination. I believe history is always undecided. And unfortunately, my friends, history has been a cemetery for oppressed people who remained oppressed until they vanished into historical oblivion. So Yaoub, my brother, history is undecided. It's our task to help history make the right choice. And for us in the Middle East, I've said it many times, the dilemma, the moral dilemma, the political challenge is still today the same as it used to be years ago. There is either one people too many in the Middle East, we the Palestinians, or there is a state which is missing. And we have to help history make the right choice. And believe you me, until today, history is still undecided. Before I begin, one final point. Crystal and I come to you in Washington after having passed a few wonderful days in Orlando, Florida, to attend the Birzeit, no, not for Disneyland, to attend the Birzeit, a biannual convention. And we were delighted, we were deeply moved to see those Palestinian Americans who are comfortable in their position, having reconciled both their identity, both their belongings. They love their country of adoption as much as they love their country of origin. They carry with pride their heritage, their legacy, their identity. And they have discovered, like you have discovered, that here in America there is no incompatibility between identity and integration. Being with them for 4 days, I was reconfirmed in my belief that America is a fascinating society. It's a nation of nations. It's the world en miniature. And I believe because of that particular nature of American society and because of the alteration in the international system and the new constellation of forces, I believe today, 2010, non-alignment is not a foreign policy option for us in the third world. That was the option when we had bipolarity, the two superpowers, where we were both afraid of their possible collision or their possible collusion. Today, with the new constellation, the new international system, I believe, my friends, non-alignment, even-handedness should be what characterizes American foreign policy for two reasons. If America aligns itself on one belligerent player in a regional conflict, not only does it antagonize and offend unnecessarily all the other players, but worse, George, they offend, antagonize, and alienate a domestic component of the social fabric of American society. And Professor Halim Barakat, I'm sure, will not disagree with me if I say that it must not have been easy to be a Palestinian American or an Arab American or a Muslim American because of that feeling, uncomfortable feeling, that for decades your country of adoption was insensitive to the suffering and the ordeal in your country of origin. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we are many to have been profoundly disappointed by the meeting that took place 2 days ago here in the White House. And I will not say much about it. Some of us are even angry at what happened and what did not happen and what was not said. The analysis of many observers is that Netanyahu, in this confrontation of wills with President Obama, has won the first round and now has won the second round. The belief is that, unfortunately, domestic considerations and domestic constraints have prevailed on that meeting and not the realities, complex realities of the Middle East. You know, during my 3 years in Washington, I was often asked on the lecturing circuit what I thought of the candidacy of Obama, even when he was not yet seen as a serious contender. And as a diplomat, I'm supposed to exercise some self-restraint. So I always would say, my wife, Crystal, believes, and she did believe, that the candidacy of Obama is reawakening American idealism, and there is a big reservoir of American idealism, that his candidacy can reconcile America with itself, and his candidacy can reconcile America with the world. I still believe that Crystal believes that today. So we are disappointed at what happened and what did not happen 2 days ago. But that was, George, not the end of history, and there is no end to history, and this was not the end of the story. I personally believe that there are trends and changes that we have to be aware of. Number one, I believe that AIPAC's monopoly of expression for Jewish American preferences has been questioned and seriously challenged, and AIPAC is beyond its golden era. New, fresher voices have emerged, and here I pay tribute to Ellen Siegel, a Jewish American who has been a companion of the Palestinian aspiration for independence and sovereignty for many, many years, has accompanied us from tragedy to tragedy, and is one of the heroines of Sabra and Shatila, having healed a lot of the pain. And the presence among us of a Helen Siegel is for me extremely important, but because if it proves anything, it proves that there is no collective guilt, because she is the voice of ethics in politics. Ladies and gentlemen, AIPAC no more has the monopoly of expression for Jewish American preferences. Israeli behavior and misbehavior is becoming a source of embarrassment for Jewish communities in Europe and in America. I still remember, I'm now 60, how Jews in American history and elsewhere have been always in the forefront of civil rights movements and human rights, etc. And for the last 40 years, they have been gradually reduced into defending the undefendable and the unacceptable and the morally repugnant. And I believe that they are beginning to feel uncomfortable with that and feeling that Israeli misbehavior is a sort of embarrassment.